Thanks for joining us once again. This is Greg. Today we focus on something I'll call Tesla's secret weapon, which is the smaller or lighter weight semi that was introduced by Elon. And we look forward to reviewing some elements that really make it stand out. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some better ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. Now, as you may recall, the focus of today's show is to first review Elon's discussion of the semi and the goals that he had in mind. And then from there, we'll review the implications of the smaller vehicle and how it is more of a game changer than the longer range semi is that we have a sample of right here. So first of all, as you may recall, Elon made the comment, he said, just be aware that our goal is to deliver a 150 mile in range semi, because that represents 70% of the trucking that's in the world today. And so this is a big deal because with the focus being that Elon discussed being only 150 miles of range, that could basically mean 150 miles out to the destination as you're in a distribution network and 150 miles back from that destination as you make stops for that vehicle. Well, this totally makes sense. Why? Because it turns out, obviously, that longer range trucks, if fully loaded with their tanks, could theoretically do that 700 to 1,000 miles, depending on the weight of the load and elevations that are being dealt with, etc. So I really think his choice of range was a real fit for, as he said, 70% of the trucks that are out there, but also sort of, if you will, hides the disadvantage that goes with using an electric vehicle, which is if you tried to load batteries on, that would give you that 800 to 1,000 miles of range. The weight of all those batteries would be so heavy that it would be prohibitive because you have a whole bunch of freight you can't carry with all that extra weight. On the flip side of this, though, what about the opposite of this? What are the implications of that, which is what this show is about today? So I now have to say, really see why the folks at Daimler Trucks were very concerned about the Tesla Semi. And here's why. Tesla is able to get 600 miles, let's call it $350,000 for that truck. Well, if in theory that's a 600-mile truck, usable range about 500, but there's extra mileage there in case it's very cold or it's very hilly or for some other reason you need the extra range. The other side of this discussion is what happens when you have a 300-mile range truck. There are several new things that pop up. One, it's actually a lighter vehicle, so therefore you can actually carry more weight because you have less battery weight that you're carrying. Two, you also have the benefit of the fact that your highest costs are associated with the battery packs. So if the number of battery packs is down and the weight of those packs is down, it means your overall costs, it may not get cut in half, but you all of a sudden go from a 350K vehicle to something in the neighborhood of 200,000, maybe 175K. So this is actually really huge. And you can see the implications. Number one, if you have to lease a vehicle in this range, your per vehicle cost all of a sudden drops. Another issue is you also have more freight you can carry, as we discussed earlier. The issue, though, 3, is that there are some entities that can charge as much as they want and therefore recoup all the costs that go with the semi at any range or weight. But there are a large number of customers, particularly grocery customers, who are rolling with as little as 2% margins. So being able to reduce what that lease number is actually a very big deal, and it makes a difference for their primary customers. The next issue that comes up is, obviously, you can actually build more trucks faster, again, smaller packs that you're working with. Another issue is obviously easier to handle. You're moving less weight, easier for truckers to handle. But I have to say that for me, the whole issue, we didn't discuss the European sizing and how that helps with the smaller semi as well. But for me, the real question mark is that the Tesla Semi, or all of the electric semis, are not very competitive, because when your average price of your ICE vehicle is between $125,000 and $150,000, having a vehicle coming in the $175,000 to maybe $200,000 range is a completely different discussion than the $300,000 to $400,000 range. So what I was going to point out earlier is that the head of Daimler Trucks actually made a comment where he said that the physics works the same in Germany as it does in Silicon Valley. And what he was alluding to is the fact that if Tesla can deliver a vehicle of that range, that let's say the 600-mile truck is $350,000, the current costs or the pricing is somewhere about $400,000 per truck by Daimler in its e-Cascadia division, and the similar costs for competitors. If Tesla, in essence, enters the space with a 300-mile range vehicle for under $200,000, we have a really interesting problem here, which is if you are offering a semi that comes in at 300K or 300 miles in the range of 200K, that's about half the price that your competitors will show up with. And we all know all the other benefits in terms of overall cost of operation in the braking and the speed onto the highway and speed up hills, etc. All those features are terrific. But the game changer deal killer here is to have Tesla enter the market space with a 300-ish mile range vehicle for under $200,000, while a 200 or 250 mile range vehicle from Daimler, which has 40% market share in large trucks, is coming in at $400K, or almost double the price. So therefore, I could see why Daimler made such an effort to quickly change up what they were doing, start finding ways to restrict the ability of Tesla to introduce its truck to Daimler's current customers. Because if this holds true, that Tesla delivers this 300-mile range vehicle, and that vehicle costs 200-ish, plus or minus 10 or 20 grand, I think we're off to the races in terms of market share for Tesla's semi-truck. And yes, it's great that they have the 600-mile range vehicle, but the number of vehicles you could pump out with the smaller packs is going to tend to be higher. So you're probably going to sell double or triple the number of 200K vehicles versus 400K vehicles. Plus, I think you'll bankrupt a whole bunch of competing companies who have large operations that are maintained by having a certain number of vehicles sold each year. So I think you see where this is going. I think the possibility is there that all of a sudden there are certain customers, Pepsi comes to mind, where they have fixed routes that they do each day, and ballparking it, plus or minus a certain number of pallets of items being delivered on those routes. Once they learn those routes, they will begin cutting the size of the battery packs, because it's not needed if in fact you have a certain operating temperature range that you're working with, and you now have had a chance to do the kind of frequency to allow you to master what's going on with range and therefore how much battery you need, and simply have those trucks on the same routes all the time, delivering to a fixed route. So overall, I wanted to point out this today because I do believe that if this 300-mile range truck comes into that $200,000 range or just below it, I do believe that that vehicle will wipe out probably half the trucks in the industry because of the eagerness with which there are a lot of places that want to transition out of using ICE vehicles. So we really look forward to your comments on this today. Next, we move on to our health tips. As usual, the reminder, it's Valentine's Day. Don't forget, no more than a salad prior to lovemaking, because that will allow blood flow to the extremities, at least a 20-minute walk each morning, and also wanted to encourage you to take time to do 25 leg lifts each morning. Once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Juste au revoir, le hit road, hoda hafez ni hao ma, konbanwa, namaste, arrivederci. And in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.